Okay, so you see the thumbnail, you clicked it. Obviously, we're talking about Troy Van Leeuwen. Ooh. Why is he so cool? First off, do we need to talk about the music? Look at him. How does a guy look that cool? He's a grown man. It doesn't make sense. He's a grown-up. Look at his hair. Look at his suits. Look at his shoes. It's frustrating. January 5th.
That's not a grown-up. They're outside.
Okay.
Like a normal timeline.
Okay, I agree with that.
You know what I mean? Like, you're not a grown-up.
Well, I think I was, when I was working on this, like prepping, I was like, it's almost like if Peaky Blinders were a rock star. You know, it's like
that's a good.
That's
a good way.
I was going deep on this. Like January 5th, 1970, Troy is brought in this world by a fantastic, strange family. No family. No, but he's a guitar player. You've probably heard and witnessed styles on more things than you realize. And live performances, lots of different bands, and you might not know who you're hearing. He blends like a chameleon into all these acts that he's played with. Yeah. But somehow he's always Troy. Like you can hear his tone, his sonic stamp. But he knows how to fit and sort of bob and weave. Whereas a lot of guys might fit into like a band, like they're just definitely doing their thing. Right. You know, like if you put like, Johnny or Baxter in there, you're gonna hear the Johnny Baxter show no matter what, probably. Yeah, we're not famous or anything, so it doesn't really matter. I was trying to think of a great famous person.
Because like no one would put us in there, but it's fine.
I know. I wanted to analogize somebody. That's a new word I just made up. But I didn't want to insult any other artist. But anyway, he has this weird ability. Like he's been, when we get into all the acts, he's been in groups. It's like Queens of the Stone Age. That's what most people know him for.
That's what I think of that immediately when you say his name.
But before we get into that, let's take a step back. Then we'll step into it, and then we'll jump into the now of what he's actually doing now. So thanks for joining us. Click like, subscribe.
Hit the bell.
For that ever-important notification system and algorithm that will invade your computer like a devious cookie.
That's not true.
I'm going to give a little bit of credit back from what I've sort of gleaned from talking to some folks that know him. I'm not giving any names away. He had good influences from his old man. Okay. His old man let him listen to some early punk, some hard rock. Cool. Which I've infected my children, hopefully not with terrible stuff as well. Like they get a lot of My Chemical Romance, Arcade Fire, Stones, Zeppelin, all that stuff. A lot of the Ramones early on, so they do love punk. But then you mix it with some trash too, like some deep hard pop. Oh yeah. And, so because they're kids, I gotta let them have some of that. I don't want them to be too evil and mischievous.
You gotta control the level of angst. Only go so much.
So Troy's first band of note, before we get into all of his styles and whatnot, was a band called Failure, which I think is funny because it didn't have huge commercial success. No, but this is the thing. Like I was going down deep, like just the other night. Like I was like, I'm gonna listen to a lot of Failure tracks, and it's really, really good. It's from the years 1990 to 97. Okay. So this is a weird time in music. So it's sort of like it's transitioning from like grunge is here. Right. This is clearly not grunge.
I was gonna say, is it? Because I've never heard.
It is not the Fray. It's not. It's not Train.
That'd be really funny. It was like the Fray.
Hey, dreaming butterfly, how you doing? I'd be like, oh god,
the Fray is awesome.
Why is Troy Van Leeuwen not so cool? I mean, even though Sean loves the Fray, like Sean
does love the Fray,
which is really weird and peculiar to me.
It brings back strange memories.
Yeah, I can't jump on that ship with him. It just doesn't work at all. Sean works with us. You've seen him on camera before if you watched us. Anyway, but no, I feel like the Failure sort of came into their own on their second album. Okay. And that's where you started hearing the guitar tones that Troy's going to start to be known for a little bit more, that we're going to get into once we get into Queens. All right. So then after Failure, sort of he leaves Failure in 97. He ends up doing lots of studio work. Gotcha. Which is like, he sort of fell into this great little, he's there already in LA. Yep. He's got the world connected. He's done a lot of things that you've probably heard and you don't know he's in there, which I think is fascinating.
That's what I think is really fun, that I didn't know, that I'm learning as we do this video.
Yeah, I know. I don't want Johnny to know anything because this is not Johnny's wheelhouse. I was like, I want you to have fun. That's part of the joy though, right? Like you're experiencing, he's experiencing it, we're having a good time. Right. I get to be this sort of the knowledgeable person for once in my life. Then this small little band, this is the weirdest part that makes me so mad at myself. He is in an audition recruited into this small little band called A Perfect Circle. Oh. You did not know he was in A Perfect Circle until about 5 minutes ago.
Did not. I was like, what? Oh, okay.
I did not know he was in A Perfect Circle until like a few weeks ago when I started sort of working on the idea of this. And I'm a huge Perfect Circle fan. apparently not huge enough.
I was going to say, you're not that huge.
I'm not one of those
Just a
guys
little.
I've never been one. I don't film when I go to concerts. I don't deep dive into. I just like the music.
you
I
just
listen
get
to it
into
and
the
enjoy
music.
it.
Yeah.
And I've seen Perfect Circle several times live. I didn't realize I'd probably seen Troy live with a Perfect Circle.
That's really
so
funny.
Weird, because I was working at MTV at the time of Perfect Circle formed, and at VH1 in particular during this timeline, because I believe that was right around '99, and I was like, this band's the greatest band ever. Maynard's in this new band. It's like, I love Tool, and this is so cool. And the VH1's like, we don't play this type of music. I'm like, I know, but can we try? And they're like, no. I got them to get Elliott Smith on camera once. That was mine. And whoever wants to take it away from me is a liar, because I worked hard. I was like, we got Elliott. And having Elliott Smith on VH1 was hilarious. The worst interviewer ever. It's like, it's funny because he's just Elliott Smith. He's great. Anyway.
I'm trying to imagine like a pop-up video with the little bubbles with like a perfect circle.
Well, and like we were just watching the Judith video as a prep before
which was awesome.
And I will say, and I said it then, I think that is the perfect visual and sonic representation of what hard rock is supposed to be.
Yeah.
And what you imagine it to be, right?
Yeah.
Like these kids that we talk about, the young kids that wear all black, that have like, the dark, like the sort of the white makeup, dark eyeliners and stuff, boys, girls, everybody. That's sort of, they imagine themselves in this universe. It's like John Wick.
Right.
And The Crow. And that's what this video, like before any of those things were even like, The Crow was around. But I feel like James Maynard is like the bad guy in The Crow a little bit. He always reminds me of that in this period of him.
In an awesome way, yeah.
All of his periods are fantastic, but that Judith encapsulates that, and the fact that Troy is like doing the little cool high pitched guitar part. That's him.
That's amazing.
Like it's
pretty darn cool.
The whole thing, and oh my god, and then just enough like you're so confused energy wise, and like then sexually they put this like gorgeous, amazing female bass player in there, and like you're just you're exploding as a young boy when you watch this video, and emotionally, physically, right?
It's shot really well too.
It's cinematic and beautiful. Okay, so then he's in the band for just a few years, because I think the band is it's not a band meant to last forever, because Maynard wants to do things. He's got Tool, and then he's consulting.
Right. It's cool though.
He's busy, like learning how to be like the coolest martial artist around.
Yeah, because he's all into jiu-jitsu, right?
Besides, what's his face? I always forget his name. I'm going to say it. The guy from that played Boom, Tom Hardy.
Oh yeah.
He's also hardcore into that. Yeah. And 2002. That's the year he joins Queens of Stone Age.
Which is really, I mean, that was the only thing really on my radar as far as like that's when you say Troy Van Leeuwen, that's what I think is Queens.
And everybody knows, like No One Knows is the song that sort of introduces, and that's what introduced me to the band too. And I was not really, because I was not like an early Foo Fighters fan or Queens fan in the early days. I was sort of into this, that sort of Strokes, Interpol. That was sort of my world I lived in that sort of early 2000s New York. So I was like, we lived in this bubble. We didn't see what was going on outside of it necessarily, and we didn't have TV in my apartment. I didn't see videos necessarily, so it's, even though I worked
which is kind of funny and ironic.
I know. My sister worked in television too, and we didn't have a TV. We had one, but we just had I think it was a DVD player, because we weren't gonna pay for cable.
Watch movies, yeah.
And we would have movie dates, just me and her, in this little tiny living room. Like little tiny living room. You don't understand. It's New York.
You and your sister. Good times.
Whatever.
I'm sure it was fine.
She's a beautiful young lady.
Yes.
Now this is where his style starts to really come out.
Okay.
And he becomes that. I was talking to one of his friends again about it. He's like a Swiss Army knife. He does it, and he kind of is, but it's not just like he's not like the utility player. He does that. He plays like the weird instruments and the slides, and
right,
and fills in on those spots. But he sort of started to carve out his own sonic landscape, to where he is. I think he started digging into the single coils a lot.
Well, it's sort of like he makes his style fit. Like his style is very adaptable, right? Like he can make it fit whatever situation it's in. Is sort of what it seems like.
Well, then when he entered Queens, it really helped launch them to their pivotal level of success. Okay. I'm not saying, Josh writes unbelievable songs. Josh Holm, their lead singer, and hopefully, knock on wood, they go on tour next year, or this year if you're watching this video in 2023.
Or 10 years ago if you're watching in 2032.
God, how'd you do the math on that? I would have had to get my slide rule.
Very tricky.
Out to figure that one out. Yeah, so I was breaking down his parts and his playing. Like, he uses some really cool effects, but a lot of stuff that you can get off the shelf, from Earthquaker to some other pieces, which, like, it's fun going back and watching his old rig rundowns.
Right.
From, like, and saying, like, Earthquaker was a new company. And, like, oh, this new company out of Akron. It's like, oh, now they're like...
This little startup. This little pedal startup.
No, but then you found his guitars. There's a lot of humbuckers being played with Queens. Lots of sort of, like, just that sort of driving, dunk, like, sort of tones. And, like, and then Josh has some cool stuff he does with the little PV amps and just driving it. But he sort of found a lot of these cool single coils and Jazzmaster type style pickups. He has a great Fender Signature Series Jazzmaster.
That's right.
Which is funny because the two coolest Signature Series are for Troy Van Leeuwen and Jay Mascis. Both weird offsets and both weird sort of not like household name rock stars. Like, as far as, like, it's not the Eric Clapton or it's not the Robert Cray. Is that household anymore?
Yeah,
not really.
I think it's funny that both of the... I don't feel like it's the people who are necessarily fans of that music who play those guitars. Like, those guitars have found fame in totally opposite genre.
Because they're good.
Because they're good and people want Jazzmasters, right? And so then they're like, oh.
Well, the Jay Mascis stuff is, like, even his little limited edition telly he did with the weird out-of-phase wiring, it was just cool. His are, like, the right price point.
Yep.
They're, like, affordable. The Van Leeuwens are a little bit more... they're nicer guitars, but then he took on this brand called Echo Park and really rolled with it and, like, made that part of his sound in such a unique way, because it has a single coil setups, a lot of the ones that you do, or even the humbuckers you do with his, and those sort of Clarence style guitars is what he was playing, but they don't sound like Les Paul humbucker as you do. They sound very much clear, and they have this unique area of the sonic landscape that you can sort of live within. He's like, you got all these humbuckers pushing here, then he lives on top. And I thought that was just fascinating how he took this instrument that's built by this crazy dude named Gabriel, who I personally love, and they're built like tanks, but they have this magic to them. I don't know. And I played a bunch of them, and they frustrate me all. And and that became part of, like, this huge part of his sound, and, like, into this weird double neck Jazzmasters or whatever that he has too. It's just neat to see all that happen. And that, and so with the success from Queens, that's really when Troy did start to become a household name in the rock and roll world. Because that's, when you have Dave Grohl as your drummer, it's not a bad launching point either.
No.
We all know who Dave Grohl is, hopefully. Class?
We hope so.
Okay.
We should hope so.
Now, like, sort of jumping back a little bit, there's this other sort of supergroup he formed. This is the time of supergroups. Gone is Gone. And that was formed by, you had Sanders in there from Mastodon.
Okay.
It was the bass player. I believe also named Troy. That's weird, 2 Troys. You had Tony Ajar from At the Drive-In. And you had Mike Zarin also rounding out that band. So you had some pretty big players here.
If you were into that world, that would be a big deal.
And this is a hardcore band, like, but it's good, and it has, like, I hate to say this word, it has a pop ability to actually have melody within. That's what I love about Tool and Perfect Circle. And then you go into Queens, which, sits more in that it's not as quite as dark and evil. When I was talking about Josh, the lead singer, the other day, I was trying to describe him. It was like he's like a good-looking pirate or something, because he's got this short hair, but he's huge, he's ripped, and he's redhead.
Yeah.
Like, what is that? It doesn't make any sense. But he's a dude you wouldn't want to mess with in a fight. He looks monstrously big.
He does.
I
feel like he is.
I don't want to go toe to toe. But Gone is Gone is another thing you should check out and see. And then right now, what's he doing now? In 2022, he just wrapped touring with The Damned.
Ooh.
Another major band. And, like, how did he get squeezed into that? It just doesn't make any sense. First off, he can cover all the parts. He makes his own sound on there, and when he comes in, like, I think I heard from some other personal sources when he was setting it with The Damned, and they all heard his rig when he first hit it, everyone's sort of jaws dropped, like, the whole band, because, like, he's playing these, he has amazing, like, real sound setup. He's not playing, like, all his digital doohickey. He's got great tube amps. I think he plays an Echo Park tube amp as well, mixed with something else we've heard of, but all sorts of cool pedals, like a real, like, normal mainstream amp,
like a
Marshall or something.
Yeah.
But then the guitars and everything, just like, bam, this power comes out, like, oh, that's what real power sounds like. And then he's like, all right, well, I guess he's going to take a break. But then now he's on tour with a small band called Jane's Addiction.
Which is kind of awesome.
And they're touring with Smashing Pumpkins right now.
Because I don't know if I lump Jane's Addiction in with most of those other bands. It's just really cool.
Well, I mean, like the whole thing, like I was talking about, like, you know, Jane's Addiction, just to some of the kids that had never really heard about them. Like a lot of kids don't know who Jane's Addiction is. I'm like, have you heard of Lollapalooza? That was like his thing. That's Perry's thing. You know, and then like back in the, this band's like, I look at them in this sort of pivotal, like launch of that sort of 90s period too, coming out of the West Coast, you know, and the sound, and like Chili Peppers were around longer, but they all sort of have that same.
Right.
And Queen sort of follows that.
Yeah.
Queens are like the dark, evil stepchild of all that, I feel like.
I could see that. I could hear that.
Because you jump into like, now we can jump back into Queens a bit. And like, you know, No One Knows is the song everyone knows. But once you really dive into these records, there's some dark, heavy stuff in there.
Right.
Like Josh, I was saying the lead singer is this pretty dude, but he sings like a hardcore maniac.
Yeah.
The guitar parts are serious and tonally rich and fantastically difficult to copy.
I think that's what drew, well, when I heard that song, it wasn't like, it is the tones, it's the way the guitar sounds that was sort of fresh and fun to me, that made, you know, put it in my brain.
Well, that's it. You know, it's just all the rock and roll stuff has been done. Like we've heard the blues tropes, we've heard like, you know, and I love the Black Keys, but you know, they're sort of they're revisiting blues like from Muddy Waters to now, and then you hear Queens, you're like, what are they doing?
Right.
It doesn't
Totally
make any
different.
sense.
Yeah.
Jane's was its own crazy thing too.
Yeah.
And
every time I think of Jane's Addiction, I remember back before everything had a video for everything. Do you remember that old video of the dude throwing the Birkenstock at him on stage? It might have been in the Lollapalooza. But
wait, the broken what?
A Birkenstock. The old like
a
hippie
Birkenstock.
things, you know, when everyone used to have that.
Wait, through what?
Somebody
threw a Birkenstock
at Jane's Addiction.
Perry Farrell?
Yes, and he's singing, and then all of a sudden you see the Birkenstock come on stage.
Awesome.
He like holds it up.
It's like the shoe at George Bush's head.
Yeah.
Just barely.
That's all I can think about.
Gotcha.
If you've seen that, or because I don't really, I only have vague memories of it. But
I mean,
someone out there has a link they can put. In the comments.
I remember one of my favorite videos of this whole world. Then we go back is just to Troy. Sorry, Troy, we're getting distracted. That happens if you're watching this. You're not. You're a rock star. You don't have time for this.
No, he doesn't care.
No,
He'll never see this.
It doesn't. No, when Troy, not Troy. I'm sorry. When Maynard was like gets like assaulted on stage, and he just like throws the dude down, pins him, and just kind of like rides him.
Yeah,
like his female dog.
You picked a horrible person to try to assault on stage.
Oh, I think the guy would just come up there because he's a big fan. Like, and then Maynard pulls him over and he grabs him. Well, bam, slams down, rides him, submits him, gently submits him and sings his song, and then just rides him and humiliates him. And the guy's like, do I act like this is awesome or do I just...
And maybe it was the greatest moment of his life. You don't know.
It might have been.
It could have been.
It might have been. So, do yourself a favor. Don't pick a fight with James Maynard.
Nope.
No, do yourself a favor. Go down the rabbit well with us on this one. It's one of those guitar players that you're gonna be happy you did when you do. And if you're already a fan and you've already seen the stuff, you get it. Like, share the love as well. It's just neat to see that this guy, I feel like he's just getting started.
Well, it seems that way, kind of.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's, you know, he's been having success since the 90s.
Right.
And
crazy.
I feel like it's just getting ready to start up again.
Yeah.
Like this next year, if Queens actually goes out again. I mean, I just saw My Chemical Romance after their 12-year hiatus, sold out a tour.
And you said it was amazing.
It was amazing. One of the best rock shows I've seen in years. And I've seen a lot of rock shows.
It's true.
Seen some boring pop shows too. And some great pop shows. Backstreet Boys for life. Saw them. It's amazing. I was next to Tiffany, this top singer Tiffany from the 80s. It was amazing. You can't ditch me on that one. That was amazing. Yeah.
She's still doing stuff, right?
I'm sure. Yeah, she's amazing. She was gorgeous too. Gorgeous. This was in the year like 1999, I think, or 2000, but unreal. I was like, you're a supermodel still. No, but check out Troy's work. Thanks for creating all this cool stuff out there.
Yeah,
Troy. Look forward to seeing you sometime in the future, maybe out there in the universe.
You never know.
Stay tuned to our channel because there's some stuff coming up. That's all I'll say.
It's cool. No one's watching the video still. It's fun.
I know. How long have we been talking? I have no idea at this point.
Who cares? It's fun. We had fun.
And if you want to feel that bad about yourself, just watch the Jeffrey Dahmer show too. We've been watching that.
I'm not even going to pretend that I
It's
want to
so,
watch that.
it's so, it makes you just feel worse every day.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, bell.
All the stuff.
Troy,
Thanks.
thank you for creating great music for us for the past few decades. Keep it going. I'm going bowling.
It's 3 decades.
Whew, weird.